cause I grind, not no luck of the draw. Body every single beat, I got my knuckles and gauze, and I'ma spit flows till I be living up in my fifth home. New York, calling my fittest, shout out to Jim Jones. Love my haters, I'm about to give them a quick loan. Make them switch tones like they fucking with a flip phone.
This is a dental emergency, please.
Nothing.
I'm assuming this is what the writer said when asked about a different idea for a sequel to the first movie. Undeterred, the execs at Warner Brothers closed their eyes, slammed a couple of Xannies, wrote a fat check, and told the...
Seriously, what is wrong with you three?
Nice line for the audience, because after all, what a trip that first movie was, huh? But aren't you gonna show a level of concern here?
She just did. Asking what's wrong with them is her way of showing concern while also simultaneously showing her annoyance.
Also, I swear to God, these two people talk so much in times of crisis. They're the ones married to each other. I actually totally forgot this woman was married to Doug until later, when we see them in the car together.
So it's unacceptable for a woman to talk to a man who isn't her husband? Jeremy is a manipulative and controlling macho man.
Jesus, man, there's so much city porn B-roll in this opening credit sequence that I'm convinced I'm watching a classic episode of No Reservations with Anthony Bourdain.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the movie cliche.
I don't think the Hangover franchise relaunched Hollywood's dependency on the in medias res bullshit, but it certainly didn't help. And because every goddamn movie is mandated to start in the middle now, I will hereby reward this with 10 cents.
While I agree that in media res is often stupid, it actually kinda works in this franchise specifically.
Come on, just one hit.
I mean, seriously, these guys have hangover incidents more than the movie show, right? They only make the movies when they can get the whole wolf pack together, but I bet they all have their own spin-off stories.
I'm gonna count this as a Jeremy sins something he likes cliche, seeing as he's talking about potential spin-off movies.
Any other problems?
Yeah, actually. You're getting married in Thailand.
Insulting exposition. Exposulting?
Why is this a sin? What's wrong with this exposition? It's necessary for the movie and also isn't delivered in an unrealistic way. So, what's your issue with it?
Put the prescription pad back.
Man, if this is the comedy version of these characters' drug addictions, I don't want to see the dramatic version.
And what's the sin here? That drug addictions are bad? Why is that a sin of this movie? Wouldn't that be a sin of real life?
Also, living in LA and choosing an IHOP for breakfast is a major sin, even if it's a stand-in for the actual bachelor party.
Everything wrong with the Hangover Part II, ladies and gentlemen. Stu likes IHOP.
You see that? That's orange juice with a napkin on top. Do you know why? So nobody roofies me.
Wasn't Alan the one who roofied you? Wasn't that a one-time thing? Besides, if someone really wanted to roofie you, a napkin's not going to stop them.
And none of this is a sin. Stu's point was that he doesn't want a crazy bachelor party that would put him in a position where he could have something bad happen. He just said it in a throwback way.
But you gotta help me out with this Alan thing.
Why is National Treasure so goddamn hung up on Alan? I know sequel has to sequel, but there's no way Stu would be convinced to invite his friend's brother-in-law on a destination wedding halfway across the world.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the movie cliche.
Hey guys. Hey Phil.
Why do all of them have to go see Alan? He already wants to go to the wedding, so why wouldn't either Stu or Doug just stop by and tell him he's invited?
Because they know this will mean a lot more to him, and they aren't heartless monsters?
Wow. Stanford? How old are you?
He's 17. Kind of a genius.
Wasn't Teddy going to answer that question? What the f***, Stu? And we find out right after this that you got the age wrong.
This is the movie trying to inform the audience of Stu's relationship with Teddy. I'm not surprised you didn't understand that, but it's still a sin.
My bride's little brother is coming to the wedding.
You could have paged me.
Don't overreact. It's gonna be fine.
What about Alan's behavior makes you think it's going to be fine? Don't overreact. Man, I'm beginning to like the idea that you were left on the roof of Caesar's Palace in the last movie.
I mean, sure, Alan is acting like an ass, but he hasn't actually done anything to ruin the entire trip yet. So Doug is just saying that they shouldn't do anything to rock the boat further.
Alan strikes me as the person at an airport who watches YouTube videos or listens to music through his iPhone speaker without headphones. This guy would never be considerate enough to wear headphones.
Alan is a spoiled brat, and headphones provide far better sound quality than playing your shit out loud, so it actually makes sense that he would have headphones.
Wolfpack only. Find another chair.
Man, it really feels like they turned this movie into the Alan Show. And that's clearly taking all the wrong lessons from the first movie. I love Zach Galifianakis, but in feature films, he's much better in moderate doses. Kind of like John Cena, or Johnny Knoxville, or LSD.
Okay, so your personal opinion is that the movie has too much of this character. But that's not a sin, seeing as it's only your personal opinion. A lot of people really like this character, so the sin isn't a sin.
Oh, sweet! They bought tickets on this plane so they could sit one row back and one seat to the right of each other. Makes perfect sense if the director needs a cinematically pleasing one-shot through the plane. By the way, how did they get Alan that exact seat when he was only recently invited?
Because it's not a super nice seat and they paid for it? Seriously, what are you even asking for right now? Also, he just said that the movie made a mistake for having a visually pleasing shot. You can't make this shit up.
Also, considering Alan's behavior, this movie is ripe for one of those make a comedy look like a psychological thriller kind of trailers.
Okay. And the sin is what exactly? Are you going to explain how that's a flaw of the movie? No? Alrighty then.
Fill them up, I promise.
The real conflict of this movie is that people keep telling Stu that terrible people will be good, and that he believes them.
Again, what's the sin? You're just saying words and ringing the bell, but none of it is actually sinful.
He seemed unattractive.
Lauren's dad's toast is all about complimenting Stu in a backhanded way, and is there anybody I can root for in this movie?
This is one of Jeremy's favorite things to do, complaining that characters aren't perfect people. His mindset is basically that of a 5-year-old. If there are people who aren't nice and therefore create conflict, he doesn't like it.
Sit down. I got this. Sit down, boy.
Lauren's father passed the toast to his son Teddy, and now Alan is vulturing the toast and everybody lets him. This is not his parents' house. Do we really think Lauren's dad would allow this even for comedy purposes?
Yes, because he doesn't want to make a scene in front of all the guests. That's Alan's job, not his.
I've also prepared a few words.
You know how you can start The Wizard of Oz and The Dark Side of the Moon and they sync up almost perfectly? I feel like you could do the same thing with this movie and its predecessor and get the exact same results, only without the enjoyment or novelty.
The issue with this sin is that this specific scene didn't have anything remotely similar to it in the first movie. There are plenty of places throughout the movie where he could have put this in, but he chose a scene that just doesn't work at all.
What is it about Stu that allowed him to land Heather Graham in the last movie and Jamie Chung in this movie? What about Stu strikes you as someone who has that kind of game? And sure, Heather Graham played a prostitute in the last movie, but she genuinely liked Stu and married him.
All I hear is jealousy. Also, Jeremy definitely has a boner.
Come have a drink with me and the guys.
Yeah, I love how much agency and texture they give the female characters in this trilogy, especially Phil's wife, who really imparts the importance of the role by delivering all her copious amounts of lines with such grace and empathy. I mean, the actress disappears so far into her character that I can't even remember her name.
These sins where he complains about women not being given big roles are really funny to me because it makes absolutely no sense. I mean, this movie isn't about female characters, it's about the wolf pack. Now, you might say that's what makes it sexist, but then I would have to ask if Jeremy would complain about the guys not getting a lot of lines if the roles were reversed. Spoiler alert, he wouldn't. Therefore, this sin is literally just Jeremy being mad that the movie focuses on its main characters rather than its side characters.
Not big breasts on her, but still solid rack for an Asian.
Okay, I can't say forget this is sexist and racist for a moment, and then go into my other observation, so please remember that this is sexist and racist. I always found it weird that they describe a character this way when they're also talking about the actress they are working with. Anyway, who talks like this to their buddies about their girlfriends? Maybe a lot of people do, so this is a sin on you, people of Earth.
You know what? I kind of actually agree with this. I've never met anyone who talks this way, and I really can't imagine how uncomfortable this would make the actress. So take one back, damn it.
As the second Kanye West song in the last 10 minutes plays in this movie, I'm seriously concerned that there was a Kardashian involved with the production.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference that isn't a sin of the movie cliche.
The weirdest part to me about these morning after sequences is that all of these fall asleep at the same time. You ever really partied with more than one person? There's always at least a couple people that can go for 36 hours straight without so much as a head-snapping doze-off.
But the movie never said they all fell asleep at the same time. Nobody ever mentioned anything about that at all.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
Are we? Even all the way back in 2011, how do you not immediately reach for your phone in this circumstance? Any person would be checking the time, weather, and location within 10 seconds flat. I don't care how hungover you are.
Maybe his phone isn't right next to him. I mean, after a long night of hard partying where you got into a bunch of crazy shit, it kinda makes sense that it would take a minute for him to think of and then find his phone.
Apparently Bangkok's power grid was engineered by the same firm that did the one in Texas.
Tracy wasn't feeling well. She came down to get me.
I don't believe your story, Doug. You're saying your sick wife didn't call you, but got out of bed and walked down to the beach so that you could take care of her? Nope, not buying.
Maybe she tried to call him, but he didn't answer, and she had to go down to the beach. You don't know. You're just saying that what happened in the movie didn't happen because you want to force more sins out of it.
Alan called me a few days ago and invited me to a wedding.
Oh, really? Why wasn't he at the party yesterday, then? Did this asshole really come to Thailand just to see a fucking wedding without any of the distractions that make going to a wedding tolerable?
We don't know what he was doing. All we know is that he wasn't there. There are plenty of potential explanations for why he couldn't or didn't want to make it, so this sin is really just pointless.
dead.
I know he's a dentist, but Stu does know how to take a pulse, right? He's seriously not even gonna try to confirm this?
As we can clearly see in this scene, Stu is freaking out, so he's not thinking clearly. Taking into account the fact that he's very hungover, this all actually makes sense.
Oh sure, guys, put a dead body in the ice machine, then collapse on the floor right in front of it after a job well done. No way anyone will suspect you of murder now.
It's called resting, Jeremy. I mean, there's nobody watching them right now, so they're in the clear at the moment.
Okay, they know they're in Bangkok, and they have at least one phone that's charged. So why are they not calling a cab or finding some other way to get back to the resort? If they're concerned about Teddy, they can always at least try and give him a call, right?
Who says they didn't already try that off-screen? It would be a fair assumption to say that they called him and didn't get an answer, which is why they end up looking for him.
They do this on an unprotected surface on the roof of a building, so a sudden gust of wind could wipe an important clue away. I'm just thinking, guys, this might not be the brightest crew in the world.
Correct, and they're also in a state of panic while simultaneously hungover. Think about it, Jeremy. It makes sense that they're not thinking clearly.
It is your fault! All I wanted was a bachelor brunch!
You know what? F*** off, Stu. You wanted to be with Lauren last night and caved to drink one beer. I don't usually sin everyday character actions because a lot of assholes do this, but what a dick Stu is for thinking anyone but he is to blame.
But as you just said, this is a perfectly realistic thing for Stu to be doing right now, so it's not a sin.
Why the Jesus is this monkey staying with these perfect strangers, if not only to serve the plot? I've seen bullshit cartoon characters that are less necessary than this f***ing monkey.
If you would pay attention to the movie, you would realize that the monkey is staying with them because of their involvement with him last night.
Of course it is. We have his IDs and everything. These were in his pockets.
So you saw an old dude with pictures of a 16-year-old kid, and you just thought, this must be his. They were in his pockets. Maybe he used Photoshop because he's embarrassed about his oldness.
Of course, you cut out the part of the scene where the officer explains how they arrest a lot of people and are basically too lazy and or incompetent to analyze all of their information.
How did you get this stuff? Hello?
I know Stu's been spoiled by Thailand, what with every single person understanding English, but does he not know he's in another country right now?
He's fully aware that there's a possibility this guy doesn't speak English. He's simply trying to communicate with him. What's wrong with that? I mean, a lot of people, even in non-English speaking countries, understand a fair amount of English, so he's just trying his best.
We arrest a lot of people. We cannot analyze everything.
Yeah, but is analyzing pictures of a 16-year-old in some dude's pocket considered difficult in your line of work?
You're ignoring the implication of this line. If you read between the lines, you'll realize that the police here are simply lazy and incompetent, which is actually a much more prominent issue than you would think.
Do you know where our friend is?
Dude, the police officer told you he doesn't speak, and they tried all sorts of languages. Why are you still trying this?
Because he's panicking and also hoping that the guy will be able to communicate in at least a nonverbal way?
Happened here? Phil asks this question without a hint of a notion that they might be responsible for whatever happened here.
Jeremy points things out on the screen, cliche.
Wait, you're telling me that the tattoo parlor guy just happened to be around after hours to take this super close-up video of Stu and Teddy raising hell during a riot? And he took video of the police throwing gas bombs? What a f***ing helpful motherfucker.
Hey, he likes to party. What's sinful about a character who likes to party?
I took you guys and hid you in the shop here.
But why? What was so special about them?
They were the ones who started the riot. You would know that if you would actually watch the movie.
Then you decided to get a tattoo. Cried like a little bitch.
Stu pulled his own f***ing tooth in the last movie and didn't cry. In fact, there's a picture of him smiling after doing it. I know tattoos are a different kind of deal, but it's in no way consistent with Stu's character when he's in his blackout stage. I think you added this cried like a little bitch line because it sounded funny, but now you've arrived at Cinemasins where humor comes to die.
Ain't that the truth? Also, Stu is a dentist and therefore used to tooth-related things. Sure, it would still hurt a lot to pull out a tooth, but at least he understands it, seeing as it's his profession. Like you said, tattoos are a different kind of pain, one that Stu isn't as accustomed to.
This kid's f***ing 9 years old. He's got balls twice your size.
You say this after showing video of Stu yelling "F*** the police" to a bunch of riot-ready bang cops. None of this "Stu is a coward" nonsense translates.
Except in the context of getting a tattoo, which is what he was referring to.
Late last night, you climbed the walls of our monastery.
How did they get here, though? We just saw that they had to take a bus to get here, and it's outside the city limits. It's their reliable transportation to a monastery late at night. I think we've already gotten to the "there's no way they did all this in one night" stage.
Jeremy has never heard of taxis.
Also, how do these assholes find the weirdest shit to do in each town in which they party? Like, if I went on a bender, I'd close the local Applebee's down, but I wouldn't find a nearby establishment of worship to f*** with.
Well, it's a good thing this movie isn't about you then, otherwise this sin might actually be valid.
Joke is that in Alan's memory, they're all kids. So kids are doing the debaucherous things the adult characters did. And let me tell you, it's such a joy to watch. This joke goes on for an entire minute.
Jeremy has the attention span of a toddler with ADHD, cliche.
This flashback completely skips over them trespassing into the monastery to kidnap the monk, which didn't really sound possible anyway, so I'm assuming the movie believes the same thing. Hell, even during the sequence at the end when they're looking through the pictures, this stop at the monastery doesn't even show up.
Jeremy double dips cliche.
Isn't it like noon? I don't care how great your strip club is. Ain't no goddamn way this shit is jumping this early, even if you have a sick lunch buffet.
Except for the fact that the movie tells us it is? Why are you still here?
Isn't this the same dude from The Wedding Chapel in the first movie? I know actors can be different characters. I think I saw Matthew Broderick in 2 different movies playing different characters before, but playing a different character in the same series? What kind of Law & Order bullshit is this?
Jeremy makes a, you know what, you already know what this scene is for.
Wow, it's so real. Selling a loaded gun over the counter at a strip club.
Pointing things out on the screen.
Man, this scene is gross. No, not because Stu had sex with a trans woman, but because Stu reacts to the news he had sex with a trans woman with the grace of someone who just noticed a tarantula on their shoulder. I guess we've come a long way since Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, when Jim Carrey was using a plunger on his face, burning his clothes, and had to take a bath while crying.
Stu just learned that he cheated on his fiancée, who he's supposed to marry soon. You're acting like that doesn't matter. Like Stu should be thanking the woman because she's transgender, and we need to give transgender people special treatment or something. Come on, Jeremy, think. Also, yet another pop culture reference.
Bill waits to put his shirt back on until he reaches the waiting room after being patched up at the clinic, presumably because he knows this isn't going to jerk itself.
Jeremy has a boner.
I spiked them with muscle relaxers, and plus my ADHD medication.
In the first movie, Alan roofied them, and that somehow translated into a rip-roaring wild night, instead of everyone crashing on the roof and being unable to move. In this movie, he spiked the marshmallows with muscle relaxers and ADHD medication. Why weren't they found asleep on the beach the next morning? Why did those drugs create a scenario where everyone is going f***ing crazy?
Comedy movie. Not supposed to make sense.
Bua Hotel. Saturday, 6 p.m. Did you write that?
Hell, this clue's lazy. How do we get them out of this predicament? Let's have Phil discover a literal message on Alan's tummy so they know where to go next.
The movie is clearly implying that they wrote that message specifically so they would have a reminder the next day. This was actually a smart move on their part, but you're acting like it's ridiculous simply because it helps them and you don't like that.
Holy It's from last night.
How and why did Pig Vomit print these pictures on regular-ass copy paper in black and white?
So he could show them to the group? Are you even watching the movie? I'm not gonna play the whole sin because it's pretty long, but he basically talks about how this whole meeting is bullshit, and he's actually correct for once. Take a sin back, guys.
Also, where did this asshole find a guitar? Much less find one and then board a boat with it.
Comedy movie.
Also, how is it that nobody came by the ice machine today, discovered it locked, and told the management? Are they the only people staying at this hotel?
This clearly implies that nobody used the ice machine today. How do you not understand that?
Feeling better?
The guys take the time to wrap Chow up in warm clothes, go to a restaurant, order, and get the f***ing food before asking him anything about last night.
Jeremy points things out on the screen, cliche.
Where's the monkey? I stashed the account number and password in his vest.
It makes sense for this movie on the whole to have a character stash, an account number and password, and a monkey's vest. It checks out. The rules of this movie have been established. Whatever insane thing can happen, will happen. It's just way more annoying than it is funny.
Why? Can you explain and give a logical reason? See, this is one of those sins where I might agree with him if he actually provided any reasoning, but he doesn't. He just says something and expects it to be true. The problem is that his fan base is so stupid and stubbornly supportive of him that they agree with everything he says no matter what.
Sure, the editors agreed that it was totally necessary to show the entire journey of this monkey from one side of the street to the other.
Jeremy has the attention span of a toddler with ADHD, cliche.
As the wolf pack flees drug dealers, I've got to ask, why did Chow put the account number and bank code in the monkey's vest? He said he couldn't have it on him because all the law enforcement in the world was following him around. So apparently he had this information on him all the way until they randomly stole a monkey, and then he was like, oh, got a great idea. An idea that adds unnecessary bull to this.
What don't you understand about drunk and high people doing stupid things? How is this so difficult for you to comprehend?
You know, besides the one call from Lauren's dad, no one from the wedding party has even tried to contact these jack. At least in the previous movie, Doug's fiancé was frequently checking on them. This is the day of the wedding, and Lauren herself hasn't attempted any other numbers?
Like I mentioned in the last movie, there could have been phone calls off screen that simply weren't important enough to show. Besides, who cares?
This movie seriously has time for this long elevator ride, and Chow singing along with the song playing inside it. Jesus Christ.
Again, Jeremy is complaining about wasted time in a scene that lasts less than a minute. It's shocking that he's not technically Gen Z.
Eating outside with no shade when it's clearly this hot.
Pointing things out on the screen when it's clearly this boring.
We did it, Stu.
Stu's been rightfully concerned about the safety of his future brother-in-law, but has paid almost zero attention to his giant face tattoo. It's like that doesn't even matter to the plot, and was just an oblique way to involve Mike Tyson, even though Tyson later appears in the movie.
Everything wrong with the Hangover Part II, ladies and gentlemen. This comedy movie did something for the sake of a joke.
This sting operation's been in place for weeks.
It has? The movie very specifically brought Chow into the plot of this movie because Alan invited him to the wedding. Like, he wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for that invitation. Now the movie's saying that Interpol could set up a weeks-long sting operation because they knew he'd be here?
It would be fair to say that they had been planning the operation to take place in the United States before he was invited to the wedding, and then simply switched it to Bangkok once they learned about the invitation.
Phillips paid for a helicopter in Bangkok and was determined to get his money's worth, damn it.
Jeremy, why is it a sin for a movie to have an aerial shot? I mean, if you were to actually back this sin up with logic and some kind of rationale, I might actually agree with you, but instead you just randomly expect it to be true.
I have a weakness for prostitutes.
No, you don't. You have a weakness for prostitutes when you've been given drugs that shouldn't make you go crazy, but because of the magic of these films, do make you go crazy.
And why is this a sin? Because he didn't give that overly long explanation? What the hell?
Chow's speedboat. What? The last thing I remember was getting off Chow's speedboat.
For which you gave me the keys for some reason that no one will ever know. I mean, this guy puts sensitive information on stolen monkeys. We shouldn't really ask questions.
So you admit it's within his character to do stupid shit while wasted, then still sin it? That's dumb.
Awesome, they found Chow's boat, but how the shit does Alan of all people know how to get back to the resort via Thai waterways?
If you had actually paid attention to the movie, you would have seen that Alan has been researching Thailand extensively. That's how he knows.
It feels like we watched the entire boat ride back to the wedding.
No, it doesn't. You're just impatient and childish.
Look! There they are.
Doug sees a boat miles away and immediately comes to the conclusion it's Stu and the gang, and he's right!
Jeremy points things out on the screen, cliche.
It would actually mean a great deal to both of us if we could just get your motherfucking blessing.
Character shows balls by showing disrespect to an authority figure and gets that authority figure's blessing cliche.
That's not a cliche, buddy.
Man, we couldn't have a Hangover movie without Mike Tyson. But remember when the cast and crew balked at letting Mel Gibson play a cameo role? The one that we saw Nick Cassavetes play earlier in the movie? Yeah, I don't mind that. What I do mind is that somehow it's okay for Mike Tyson to be in this movie if we're applying the same standards.
Jeremy complains about Mike Tyson. Watch your ear, bro. It's not gonna last much longer.
The movie twists the knife by making me sit through an entire f***ing song featuring Mike Tyson on vocals. I'd rather endure every trap and every Saw movie combined than listen to this.
And that's a Saw reference.
But I recharged it and found all these photos.
Haha, no doubt. But if you took as many pictures as this upcoming credit sequence suggests, why wasn't your phone out during the riot earlier?
Maybe he saw that other people were recording the riot and decided he didn't need to. That's a perfectly reasonable explanation that you somehow didn't think of.
Oh my god. Nah, that's the maddest, bro. Bro? Bro, he's taking your jacket off.
Oh my god.
Take it off, help him. Help him.
Oh my god.
Take it off. Bro, he's gonna put it on, bro. Nah! Nah!